Okay. I would say probably today we have used the word God more than we've used the whole last year. And there's a reason for that. Because today I want to talk about God. I want to talk about the word God. I want to talk about the idea of God. So I was on Facebook this week. I check into it every day at some point. But someone I know very well, had written me a message on Facebook based on one of the posts that were posted about my talk last Sunday. And what she said was, now this is from someone who considers herself an atheist and does not believe in God, yet really believes in what we teach and lives this teaching. And she said, so I get confused when I see these postings about God, and I just want to ask you a really important question, Dr. James. If I am kind and good, and I am generous, and I do my part in the world, and I am filled with joy and passion and all the things you talk about, does that mean I'm not really living a spiritual life? And of course I wrote back and said, absolutely not. That is what it is. That's what it's all about. Don't let the word God trip you up. And she was good with that. But then later in the week, another post went up, and I got another email saying, so if that means I am God, then what am I? What is this thing? And so I'm following this, and I'm thinking, this is what I really want to talk about, because it comes up all the time. This idea of I am God, people take it as like blasphemy. Even in religious science, I have ministers that just think I am going off the deep end, saying I am God. Apparently they haven't read Ernest Holmes in his later years, but I'm not. I'm not. But then Margaret sends me a song, Thank You God. My first instinct is, it's a little Christian. Thank you God. Who are we thanking? Who am I thanking? Are we going to change the song to Thank You Me? Thank you me. Thank you me for giving me this day, for loving me this way. Well, unfortunately, that's actually the case. But how do we get personal with the God that we believe in? That's really what I want to talk about today. How do we take our teaching and live it and still have moments like we just had with I need a little meditation? What is that? What is that emotion? What is that love? So Ernest Holmes calls God this. He says, God, the first cause, the great I am, the absolute, the one and only, which is also Gershwin, my one and only. Spirit, or the creative energy which is the cause of all visible things, love, wisdom, intelligence, power, sustenance, mind. God is the only presence and power and has no opposite. So, in other words, Ernest Holmes just said nothing, because he basically just gave us all the same things we all grew up hearing, yes? That's really what he's saying. It's all of this. That's what God is. And so we're still left with, what is God? I read what Ernest Holmes says, and I'm still left with, what is God? I am a minister. I chose to be a minister, which means I am in a spiritual center, some will call a church, but I am a minister, let's say in a church, speaking to congregants who come to have a spiritual experience. What do we do with this word God? How do we celebrate God as ourselves, in ourselves? So I went to the dictionary. Historically, God is thought of as a noun, isn't it? I mean, God is a noun. God is an entity. God is the old man in the sky with the gray hair, right? The creator, and so this is what it says in the dictionary. God, the creator and ruler of the universe and source of all moral authority. Well, that's really scary. It would be really scary to me if there were one person somewhere in the universe who was the moral authority of life. That would be really a problem, because whatever he or she or they think, I'd have to live up to somehow. Yes? We kind of all grew up with that, didn't we? I have to live up to this concept of God. I have to live up to what God says I should live up to. And the authority of the universe, which means I don't have authority anymore. God tells me what to do. And there are people living on this planet that live that way. God tells me for years not to eat meat on Fridays or I will go to hell. So I am eating tuna my entire childhood when it comes to Friday, unless I forget. Now I'm going to purgatory to figure it out. I mean, think about that. And I don't mean to be making fun of it, or do I? Right? It also says God is the supreme being. Okay? Another one, a superhuman being worshipped as having power over nature and human fortunes. Do you want anyone having power over your fortunes? That person doesn't. Now, in the Oxford English Dictionary, it says the sole supreme being, the only supreme being there is. Now, here's the thing, folks. We understand God as a verb, not as a noun. We don't understand God as something, had you already come to that? Outside of ourselves. We understand God as a verb. And what we really understand God to being is the creative energy of all things. The creative energy. So, but my question is, how do I get personal with this creative energy? It's energy. How do I get personal? How do I have a personal relationship with this energy that's everywhere present? It's through me, as me, of me. How do I get personal with it? Well, I have some answers to that today. So if God is energy, let's look at the two. What'd you say? Of course you do. Margaret went, thank God. Thank God. See? The other thing in the dictionary, it says, it's the exclamation when one is excited. You can play with that. I'm not going there. God. Yeah, so I don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about like going to a concert and saying, God, he's good. Or she. It could be a female, you know. So, two types of energy, kinetic energy, potential energy. Now you go back to high school science. Kinetic energy, potential energy. For those of you that have forgotten your science, kinetic energy is the energy in moving objects or mass. Everything has energy. This stage has energy. This shirt has a lot of energy. Everything in the universe, it all is nothing but energy, a mass of energy moving at all times. Everything is moving. That's what God is. It's kinetic energy, but it's also the potential energy that is stored for future use. Right where you are, Kathy, the entire energy of the universe is stored within you to be used at your discretion. How does that feel? Did that just go right through you? Everyone should be taking that personally. Right where you are, the storage unit of energy of the universe is right here. Potential energy, just waiting for you to unlock it, open up and say, yes, this is who I am. And then it turns into kinetic energy and moves mountains. That's what we know as God. A living organism. And all living organisms require energy to stay alive. That's what life is. Life is this energy. Energy, and it says in the dictionary, so it must be true. Merriam-Webster said this. Energy can neither be created or destroyed. Oh my God. That's what I was taught in the Baltimore Catechism. God was never created and can never be destroyed. God always was and always is and always will be. So is energy. You can't destroy energy. You can turn it into bombs and destroy things. Can't destroy the energy itself because that's what God is. That's what you are. That energy, that thing. So, the question I have today is, how does it feel when we understand God this way? Do we lose our relationship to God? Do we lose the emotional feeling? Do we lose the feeling? Can we talk to energy? Where is that personal God that I grew up with? I grew up loving God. I wanted to be a priest until I saw some of the requirements. Changed my mind. But I loved God. You would see me through pretty much my early childhood, early in the morning at 7 a.m. with my little missal, walking down the street, going to Mass every single day. You too? Yeah. And I just would kneel down in that beautiful Catholic church where it just felt so beautiful and warm, even though I'm surrounded by the Stations of the Cross, which are just like a horror show. But you're brought up not to think that. And I would just kneel there and feel the love that God is. To this very day, I can walk in any church and feel overcome by this beautiful understanding of what God is. And it's not the statues, and it's not the Stations of the Cross. And it's not because the church, this building has been built to honor God. It's the energy of it. Because the energy is always right. Because the energy is coming from love. So how can I have my relationship with this thing called God? So the title of my talk today is In the Final Analysis. Do you like that picture? I chose it myself. And the reason why I picked it out, when I was looking at pictures for the talk for today, when I couldn't find anything with final analysis, and it was all very scientific, and then I went to my head, I went, dance. Because God is creative. God is about creativity. And when this picture showed up, all I could think of was the image a choreographer must have had in this midst of this dance is to just take everything out of me and release it. To be that moment where everything just flies and goes. Because that's what God is. God is the artistic expression, the creativity that is inside of each one of us. And we experience God every time something like that happens. We experience God in our most amazing relationships and friends. We experience God when we go to the beach and we sit there and just watch the ocean. Why? Because it's nothing more than energy coming home. Coming home to itself, meaning my mind, my consciousness, reverberating in that beautiful energy. So can I have a personal relationship? Well, in the final analysis, if God is who I am, then I'm always, always, always having a personal relationship to everything. So it's not about having a personal relationship with, not unlike what Andrea brought up with the eyes. It's the understanding that if I am going to celebrate God, I am going to celebrate as God. It's not that I need something to honor or worship. I just need to know who I am so that I can celebrate and have my relationship as God and see it everywhere I go. That's one of the problems why love only is so hard. We still think we're separate beings having to communicate and we just communicate with one another, but we don't realize, no, we're just literally living as one another. So for those of you who are old-timers in religious science, today's a really great day for us to take back our own personal religion, our own personal philosophy, and put God back into it. And not just be these talking heads. You know, it's not science of mind. Ernest Holmes did not write a book called Science of Mind. Some well-meaning people thought to take his title and change it to the Science of Mind, because it was the science of mind and spirit. And his whole philosophy is love and law. It's not just law. And we should not be taking this science and this teaching and knocking it down to just scientific cold data. Everything about this teaching is the feeling part of it, is the love part of it. And that's where I find God. And that's why I know when I say I am God, I am not being blasphemous. I'm actually finally, in the final analysis, I am finally understanding what God is and claiming it as such. And that's who you are. That's who we all get to be. It's not about walking around egotistically saying, I am God. That's not it. It's finding God again. Jesus said it. You will find God in the hearts and souls of man. I and the Father are one. I mean, everything that man taught. Was Jesus God? Yes. That's the irony here. You know, when my brother talks to me about it, he goes, you just don't believe that Jesus was God. I said, no, I actually do believe Jesus was God, but I also believe you're God, as did Jesus. One of the greatest teachers alive ever that ever walked this planet. Whether or not you believe he did walk the planet or he wrote what he wrote, but his teachings, the basic teachings, are paramount in our philosophy. and it's the teachings of love. Ernest Holmes said this: religious science is a synthesis of the laws of science, opinion, of philosophy, and revelations of religion applied to human needs and the aspirations of humankind. Ernest Holmes was only interested in God in so much as it was usable by man. That was his only interest in God. How can this concept of God, how can the religions of the world inform me to be a better me, a bigger me, a more powerful me? That's what he was interested in. He wasn't interested in worshiping something outside of himself or even worshiping something within himself. He was interested in teaching us that at the end of the day, in the final analysis, God is who I am. And when I can live from that at the highest level, then I can answer my friend on Facebook and say, be good, be compassionate, be kind, be understanding. Love only, forgive everything. But remember who you are. You are whatever you want to call it. For me, it's God. That's what it is. So I was on the treadmill this week at the gym, and one day I'm on the treadmill and I'm listening to, I forget what I was listening to, but suddenly Oprah came on in the midst of my treading. Oprah came on and gave this 5-minute lecture. And she started out by saying this. She said, I have the greatest gift today that I will ever be able to give you. And it's the greatest understanding for you to walk away with. And if you can accomplish this, most of your life, you will literally be able to live the best life. And then she said, and it's very simply, remember who you are. I was like, I almost wanted to jump off the treadmill. It was exciting. Then I thought, was she watching my show? And I had to get off the treadmill and look on and see when was this. She just said it. This was a brand new thing in the last month. And it just made me think. I was like, thank you, Oprah. You have a much bigger platform than I do. And if you can, at the moment, if you can get the world to start remembering who they are. And she went on to say, without saying I am God, she reminded them that they were God without using the word. And I understand that. But remember who you are. How are you going to remember who you are if you don't believe it? How are you going to remember that you're God if you haven't been able to embrace the concept? And I am listening to you all. Many of you have come to me saying, I have a hard time with the I am God thing. And I get it. I understand it. But it's time for you not to have a hard time with the I am God thing, to embrace it. Because how are you going to be it if you don't believe it? You have to believe it first, then you get to believe it. So at the end of this month, celebrate. You know, our job is to find out what is there to celebrate. Well, at the end of the day, at the end of this month, I'm here to tell you, celebrate you. Just celebrate you, Becky, because you are God. For no other reason. You don't have to celebrate your Emmy win or your Emmy nomination. You don't have to celebrate any of the great things you've done in life. Just celebrate, Marty, that you already are God. Celebrate that, then watch what comes from it. That's what we're here to get at the end of this month. That's what we are here to celebrate. And you're going to get an opportunity to do it as we do our giving portion. Margaret has written this beautiful song, and it says, I am, what? Oh, sorry, God is. I have it right here. God is, I am. Say that for me.
God is, I am.
I know. I am grateful. I release and let it go. God is, I am, I know, I release, and I am grateful. I release and let it go. They're the 5 steps of treatment. We're going to be singing our heads off with this shortly. But the whole idea is, God is, I am, I know it. God is, I am, I know it. And then even though it says let it go, then let that flow. That's what we get to celebrate this month. So I want you all to take a deep breath and close your eyes for a second. I would like you to go to the most powerful, passionate, exciting, successful moment in your life. Something you identify as the greatest moment in your life. One of them. There are many, but pick one. And just sit in that for a second. What was happening? Who was there? What were you wearing? What was going on? How did you feel? I'll take a huge breath into that. And exhale. Okay, now open your eyes. Whatever you're feeling right now, if you went to that place, that's God. That's the experience of God. That is the experience of something so joyous, so fulfilling, so successful, whatever words you were using. As you go through the rest of this week, I want you to use that moment, or whatever moment you use, to take your consciousness to that place. And realize in that moment, you are communing with your highest self. You are feeling from your highest place. And then just let your day unfold from there. Start your day with it. That's what we get to do in this science. Your mind is your greatest asset, your greatest tool. You get to use your mind to create your world around you. You do. Because the world already is what it is, which is the joyous celebration of divine energy. That's what it is. You may be experiencing it differently, but that's what it is. And you can experience it any way you choose. As Ernest Holmes said, his only interest in God is how is it used in my life. Well, what I say is, my only interest in God is to remember that that's what I am. And when I remember that's what I am, and I stand in that truth, and no one can argue me off it, even myself in special moments, when I can stand in that truth and just solidly know this is who I am, everything shifts, everything changes. And then the I am God is not just a slogan, it's actually an identity. And I not only remember who I am, but I live from it. That's what I know for myself, and that's what I celebrate this center as being, a beacon of light that helps people remember who they are, even Oprah. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.